Okay, so the focus of today's genetics section 1.2 part 7 is on multiple alleles. Okay, so we're going to begin our lesson today just by going through the practice questions from sex determination and sex-linked genes. I just made a note at the top. So this homework was from page 43 to 44. So with number 1, a man and a woman have a child. What is the probability of having a boy versus a girl? So the mother is XX and the father is XY. So that's shown in black. And then if you were to cross those, we can see that we have a 50% probability of having a girl and 50% probability of having a boy. So shown by the top row is a girl and the bottom row is a boy. So which father determines the sex of the child? That is the father, because they are the only one who can donate the Y chromosome. So number 2, a normal man and a woman that is a carrier for colorblindness allele have a child. So what is the probability that the child is colorblind? The man is normal, so does not carry the gene, so he has the capital N allele. And the woman is a carrier. So if we cross these, the first child in the first box is completely normal. The second child is a male who is normal. Third child on the bottom here gets the affected color blindness or the chromosome from mom, meaning that they become a carrier. So this girl is a carrier. And then our last box is our affected male. He gets his X chromosome from mom, which is the affected chromosome, and then the Y from dad, which can't dominate over that X. So therefore, the probability is that 25%, so 1 out of 4, will be colorblind, and that child will be male. So a normal man and a colorblind woman have a child. What is the probability that the child is colorblind? This time the man is normal and the woman is colorblind, so she is carrying both chromosomes with the affected allele. So if we were to cross those, this child gets the normal allele or the normal X chromosome from dad and the affected X chromosome from mom. And then the last child will also be affected because he can't get the X chromosome from dad. It must come from mom as he's getting the Y from dad. So here we have a 50%, so these two right here, chance of a child being colorblind, 1 carrier, so 25%, and 1 completely unaffected. So the sex of the colorblind child is male. So a normal man and a woman that is a carrier for hemophilia have a child. What is the probability that the child has hemophilia? So this is really similar to the first colorblind example, number 2 in the questions here. 2 children have the affected X chromosome, but only 1 will actually show it because this one is a carrier. The normal allele will dominate over the hemophilia allele. So there is a 25% chance, a 1 in 4 chance the child will have hemophilia, and that child again will be male. Okay, question 1. Henry VIII executed many of his wives because they could only bore daughters for him. Aside from the ethical issues, was he right for doing so? Why or why not? So was it the wife's fault, essentially, is what this question is asking. So no, the father and his sperm is the parent that determines if a child is male or female, because remember, only the male can donate the Y chromosome. Number 2, is it possible for 2 colorblind parents to have a child that is not colorblind? Why or why not? No, because the parents would be X little n, and X little n, Y. So there are no X capital N unaffected chromosomes to donate. Number 3, what are the requirements for 2 parents to have a daughter that is colorblind? So the father must be colorblind because if they have a daughter, she would need to have one of the X chromosomes donated from dad. The mother either is colorblind, X little n, X little n, or is a carrier, X capital N, X little n. So it must get one affected chromosome from dad and mom if it's a girl, and if it's a boy, it needs to get the one X that's affected for colorblindness from mom. What are the requirements for two parents to have a daughter that has hemophilia? So again, similar to the last question, the father must have hemophilia, X little n y, and the mother is either has hemophilia, X little n, or is a carrier, X big N, X little n. And then why do we refer to traits such as colorblindness and hemophilia as sex-linked? So the gene is carried on the X chromosome, which is one of the two sex chromosomes. We are going to be talking about multiple alleles. So this is on page 34 of your textbook. So blood types are commonly known as being A, B, A and B together, and O. Thus far, you've only had two options for whether or not a gene is normal versus affected by something. For example, so essentially it can or it can't, it's black or it's white, etc. with fur. This section, there are more than two possible alleles, and so this is the case with blood type where there are actually three possible alleles. Blood types are commonly known as being types, so A, B, AB, and O. If you're in a serious accident and require a blood transfusion, how do doctors and nurses decide what blood type to give you? So they will test your blood first, or your blood test might be on file. Will any type do? No. You need to have the blood that is compatible with what you have. Do you have to receive your exact blood type? No, with the exception of one blood type that needs its own. So the other three can receive others. So recall from your learning on the immune system that antigens are substances that antibodies in your immune system will attack. This is governed by a gene that has two different alleles, i.e. the gene has multiple alleles, meaning more than two. The immune system, we think of things like histidine, for example, with allergies, that are involved in reactions, and the blood type, which is based on antigens. So because the gene has different alleles with the gene, it is considered to have multiple alleles. So looking at blood type here, we have A-type blood that has A antigens. You can see here A antigens. B-type blood, which has B antigens. And then AB, you can see, has both. And then O, which is considered the universal donor, has neither of the two antigens. So instead of just dominant and recessive, we have two different dominant and then a recessive. So for humans, the allele for blood types are I, so it's a capital I, capital A, IB, and little lowercase I. The fancy actual name for an antigen is isoagglutinogen. So it's much easier for us to say antigen. So this is where the I comes from in that base letter there. We don't use A for antigen because this would get confusing with the A blood type. IA and IB are dominant. Lowercase I is considered recessive. So each allele is responsible for the production of matching markers, antigens, on the red blood cells, and the production of antibodies that attack foreign, which just means not of the body, antigens. The alleles do not produce antibodies to attack its own antigens. So this is why if you are type A, which is I capital A, or I capital A lowercase I, you can be given more type A blood. So there's multiple options essentially. So we have antigens on the outside of red blood cells so that the body recognizes its own blood type. And we have antibodies that recognize and attack antigens from elsewhere. So the lowercase I allele produces no antigens nor antibodies. The lowercase I refers to the O blood type. So anyone can be given type O because it's not producing antibodies or antigens. So therefore, it will not cause anything to attack it or attack anything else. So I just made a point. This here refers to essentially a double dominant, and then this would be a heterozygous blood type. Again, this is why anyone can be given type O, which is little I blood. So this chart just gives us an overview of the red blood cell type, the antibodies, and the antigens. So let's just talk through this. So our type A, so looking at the first column, blood has A antigens on it. So you can see that symbolized here and here. Type B blood has B antigens. Type AB has A and B antigens. And then type O has no antigens on it. In your plasma, which is basically the liquid part of your blood, it's kind of a clearish yellow liquid. So in A blood plasma, there are anti-B antibodies. So you'll notice that the shape of these matches the antigen on the B blood type. So it basically recognizes and then knows to attack type B antigen. So if you're type A blood, your body will attack type B blood based on those antigens. In type B blood plasma, we see anti-A antibodies. So these antibodies attack type A blood. Okay, so again, the antigen is what is recognized. The antibody is kind of what does the attacking. In AB, you don't have any antibodies because your blood contains both antigens and you don't want your blood to attack its own blood. There are no antibodies in type AB blood, but we do have A and B antigens. So type O, we have no antigens present. So you can see that on the surface, there's no receptors. But we do have anti-A and anti-B antibodies present in the plasma. So it will attack either blood type if you're donated. So it will attack A, B, and AB blood. So each one of these antibodies fits over the antigen of the opposite blood type and basically blocks it. The same as an immune response for something like COVID after being vaccinated, your body will have antibodies against the spike protein to block it from entering your body and your cells. So we talked about how we have 4 blood types, and we have alleles for those blood types. Notice that there are 2 different alleles for A and B, but only one type for A, B, and O. So, and then we also have antigens on the blood cells and antibodies against those antigens. So I would like you to pause here and basically thinking about what we just learned on the previous slide, please fill in this table. And then on the next slide, I will go through the answers. So make sure you pause and then we'll move on. Okay, so let's start off with type A and blood type. So it can be that double dominant IA, or it could be the heterozygous, which is the IA and the lowercase I. So the antigens on that red blood cell are the blood type. So it's type A, so it has A antigens. The antibodies present in the plasma are B antibodies, so anti-B antibodies. So it will attack the B antigen. Type B can be double dominant IB, or it can be the heterozygous IB lowercase I. So again, it has B antigens and it has antibodies, which will attack A antigens, so the opposite blood type. Third blood type is AB, which means it contains an allele for both A and B. So the antigens present on that blood cell will be A and B, and it does not have antibodies, otherwise it would attack itself. So you can think of it as existing in kind of a co-dominant way where both of the A and B antigens are present together. Type O is the last type of blood, and this is lowercase I, lowercase I. It doesn't have any antigens on it, but the blood plasma does contain antibodies which will attack A and B. So it basically attacks the other three blood types if they are put into your body. So let's talk through an example here. What would be the possible blood types of children born to a female with AB blood and a male with O blood? So our cross is capital I, capital A, capital I, capital B, crossed with the lowercase i's, so II. If we then draw our Punnett square out, you're getting one allele from the mom and the lowercase I from dad. Same thing, you're getting the B from mom and the lowercase I from dad. And then the same thing on the bottom two rows. So the children would be type A or type B blood. They would not be O or type AB like the parents. So there's a 50% chance of the child being type A blood and a 50% chance for the child being a type B blood. You try now. This is not in your notes. So for question 1, what would be the blood type for the children of a mother with type AB and a father who is a type B carrier? A daughter is type O and her brother is blood type AB. What are the blood types of the two parents? These are your two questions. Okay, so just to give you the cross to get you started, the mother is capital IA and capital IB. So she is AB blood type. And you are crossing that with capital IB, and he's a carrier for O type blood. The daughter is type O, meaning she is lowercase I, and the brother is IA, IB. So to get you started on this one, I will help you just in case you're stuck. Okay, so for question 2, I have drawn in the Punnett square for you if you're stuck to give you a starting point. You essentially want to start with your kids and work your way backwards to determine the parents. So work with the information in the Punnett square with the kids to figure out the answer for number 2. Notice that I've put the brother and sister in different boxes. I put these in these offset squares because there's no commonalities between the siblings' alleles. So O-type blood does not contain A or B antigens. So meaning that they did not get the same allele from the same parent. So take a minute to pause here, use this as your starting point, and then when you're ready or if you're really stuck, we will go through the next question together, or these two questions together, I should say. Okay, so let's go through these couple examples which I have pre-filled in for you. So if you've got everything correct, you can check over, move on. But if you need more of an explanation, I will walk you through it. So what would the blood type of the children of a mother with AB type blood and a father with B carrier blood? So meaning they're carrying the O allele and it's being masked by the B. If you were to draw out the Punnett square for this, you would get 25% of the children are AB blood type, 25% are B, 25% are A. We have no type O blood because both parents would need to have that lowercase I allele present as O is recessive. For number 2, a daughter is type O, meaning II, and her brother is type AB. What are the blood types of the parents? So kind of like the last question, except this time we're working backwards from the children. I explained the offset boxes because there's no overlap in alleles. But in order to be type O, which is the recessive allele, you'd need to get the lowercase I allele or the O allele from both parents. And for AB, you would need to get an A allele from one parent, a B allele from the other. So we get a type IA, which is carrying the O allele, so the lowercase I, and a B carrier, so has the capital IB allele as well as the lowercase I allele for type O. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something called Rh factor on blood. So in addition to the standard letter blood types, so AB, and O, there is an Rh factor. The Rh factor is a protein that produces Rh antigen on the surface of red blood cells, much like that of A and B antigens. So this is controlled by a completely separate gene from blood type, so it is completely independent of blood type. So the Rh factor displays simple dominance. It's on or it's off. So you either have it or you don't. Most people have the Rh factor, and if they do, they are Rh positive. Others do not have the Rh factor, meaning that they are Rh negative. So because we have an Rh blood type on top of the A, B, AB, and O blood types, we basically have double the number of blood types. Most of the time, this does not impact us, although there are certain times when it would affect the blood type that you get. So let's kind of go into an example of that. So what about Rh negative mothers? So where you come into an issue with the Rh factors is in Rh negative mothers carrying an Rh positive child who has the Rh factor from their father. So if you are an Rh negative female and you have a child with Rh positive male, and your unborn child is Rh positive, the mother's immune system may accidentally think the unborn child is a foreign invader and attack it with an immune response. This can be prevented by a vaccination from your doctor during pregnancy. So this isn't an issue with the first pregnancy, it ends up being an issue with the second and third pregnancy and so on. During the first pregnancy, you encounter the antigens, but it won't elicit an immune response. But between pregnancies, you may end up with antibodies which will basically attack the next Rh positive fetus in your body. These antibodies are in your blood. They will travel through the placenta and end up with the antibodies attacking the fetus. The shot essentially prevents this. Back in the day, so think your kind of grandparents, great grandparents era, before they knew about this Rh factor and they didn't have the shot, a lot of people were only having one child, and any subsequent pregnancies after that would have ended up in miscarriages because of this Rh immune response that the body has. Okay, so the result of the Rh factor is that there are twice the number of blood types that we talked about before. So the AB positive blood type has 3 types of antigens on it. It's got the A, the B, and the Rh positive factor. Type O type O negative has no antigens on it at all. So no A, no B, no Rh factor, and so on through the other types. So basically, if you are A, you would have the 2 antigens, A and the Rh factor. If you were B positive, you would have B and the Rh factor as well. If you're negative, you only have the antigens present on the red blood cell from the blood type, as you can see by the bottom row there. O positive only has one antigen on it, and that is the Rh factor. So whereas O negative has none. So the distributions of blood types, this obviously varies with ethnicity, but this is kind of the general distribution within our population. So we can see here that the rarest blood type to have is AB negative. So only 0.7% or 1 in 167 people have this blood type. The most common blood type is O positive. So 38.4% of people have this. So if we're going from kind of least, actually, let's do most common to least common. So most common again, O positive, then A plus, and then last would be the AB minus. So AB minus again is the least common. The last chart we're going to look at for this section is basically a chart for blood type, which goes based off of if you have this blood type, which is going to be going along that up and down column there. you can receive going across the top there in the row. So looking at the blood types and what you can receive, so O minus, for example, can only receive O minus blood, but AB positive can receive all. Sorry, that's messy. So it can receive any blood type because they already have the antigens for all the different types, and they don't make any antibodies against them. So you can kind of take a peek and look through the other blood types here to get an idea of which blood types are compatible with which blood type. Okay, so this is the end of the notes, but I will continue through the answers for the allele practice. So it would be best for you to just take a minute and pause here, try the questions first, and then you can watch through the answers after to check yours over. Okay, so these answers are all already filled in. They're all based on the blood type practice for multiple alleles. So a man with type AB blood and a woman with type O blood have a child. So here's our man up at the top here and our woman at the side. So the probability here, if you look, because the mother will always donate one of the O type antigens, O type alleles. So all of your offspring are going to be either A or B from the dad and carry the O allele. So they're all 50% type A blood, 50% B, carrying that O allele. So the genotype is then 50% IA, lowercase I, 50% IB, lowercase I. Number two, a man with type A blood genotype, so IA, so double dominant, and a woman with type O blood have a child. In this case, because they're getting one, all children will be getting one IA allele from dad and one O allele, or the lowercase I, from mom. So 100% will be type A and 100% will be capital IA, lowercase I. Question 3, a man with type B blood, genotype IB, lowercase I, and a woman with type O blood have a child. What are the probabilities for each blood type? So dad is going to donate the IB allele to this child. Mom will donate the lowercase I. So what this means is we have 50% type B blood. So type B carrying the O allele, and 50% are type O. So 50% are IB, lowercase I, 50% are lowercase I, lowercase I. A man with type AB blood and a woman with type AB blood have a child. So what are the probabilities for each blood type? So our first box, we can see that they're getting an IA from the top parent, and IA from the side parent. So 25% will be I capital A, which is A blood type. 25% will be I capital B, so the other 25% is type B, and then the remaining 50% is the AB blood type. So the probabilities for the genotype follow that same pattern. 25% I capital A, 50% IA, IB, 25% or 1 in 4 IB, IB. Okay, last couple questions here. So number 1, a man with type A blood and a woman with type B blood have a child. Is it possible for that child to have type O blood? So yes, as long as they are carriers for the O blood type allele, so the lowercase I. So if they are IA, lowercase I, IB, lowercase I, then yes, they could have a child that is type O. A man with type AB blood and a woman with an unknown blood type have a child. Is it possible for the child to have type O blood? Why or why not? So no, there is no lowercase I from the father. Therefore, the child can't have the 2 recessive alleles. They would only possibly get one from the mom if she had one. Number 3, why are type O blood considered to be the universal donor? This is because it doesn't have any antigens, so other blood types won't see it as foreign. So this is specifically referring to O negative being the universal donor, because if it was O positive, it would have an antigen and therefore could not be donated to all possible blood types, only those with the positive Rh factor. Why is type AB blood considered to be the universal acceptor? So this is because it has both blood types, both antigens and no antibodies. Therefore, it can accept from A blood type, B blood type, O, as well as AB. Do you know your blood type? If so, what is it? If you're type O, please consider giving blood. If you're not type O, also consider giving blood. So A minus and AB negative are super duper rare. So if it is an exact match, it's even better. So even if you're not AB negative or O negative, etc. So the minimum age to donate is the age of 17. So for most of you, this will be when you're in grade 11 or 12. And that is the end of our lesson for today. Please follow the instructions on the schedule for what you are to do next. So you've officially finished section 1.2. So you can now move on to the practice.